This is Nightly Business Report with Bill Griffith and Sue Herrera.
Bounce back. Stocks rise on optimism over trade. But in Beijing, there's some doubt, especially among global business leaders.
Game changer, the new Farm Bill has a surprising provision, and it could be a boon to the cannabis business.
Try before you buy. It's a rental apartment that's also a marketplace for American-made goods. Those stories and much more on Nightly Business Report for Wednesday, December 12th.
And we do bid you good evening, everybody, and welcome. Stocks rebounded today on, you guessed it, optimism over trade talks between the United States and China. The move higher extended the recent bout of volatility that this market has been defined by lately. The Dow was up 458 points at its peak today, but around midday, the major indexes all came off their highs around the same time that President Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison for his role in hush money payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign. By the close, though, some pretty solid gains were still in place. The Dow rose by 157 points to 24,527. The Nasdaq was up 66 and the S&P added 14. Bob Pisani has more on today's bounce back.
Stocks were in rally mode for most of the day. The Dow surged more than 400 points at one point on a spate of positive global market and trade-related headlines, though it closed well off of those highs. The markets first got a lift pre-open on news that the CFO of Huawei, one of the largest tech companies in China, had been granted bail in Canada, and that President Donald Trump said he was willing to intervene on Huawei's behalf if it would help him win a trade deal with China. Then the Wall Street Journal reported that China was planning to allow greater access for foreign companies by drafting a replacement for its current Made in China 2025 plan. That plan had been a framework for increasing China's dominance in the manufacturing business. Meantime, European stocks surged ahead of a major confidence vote tonight over British Prime Minister Theresa May's leadership. May has been the driving force behind negotiating a Brexit deal, that is the UK's plan to exit the European Union. She has survived that vote. Finally, Italy's Prime Minister is set to meet with the European Union this week, where he says he's willing to propose a reasonable budget deal to tackle Italy's deficit problem. A lot of headlines today, so you have a symphony of positive headlines. The question is, will this very modest move that we saw last? For Nightly Business Report, I'm Bob Pisani at the New York Stock Exchange.
And while stocks rose on reports of a warming of trade relations between the U.S. and China, some skepticism remains on both sides, especially within the business community. Eunice Yoon is in Beijing tonight.
President Trump weighed in on the Huawei CFO situation in a way that has been unnerving some American business people here. In an interview with Reuters, President Trump said he was willing to intervene in Meng Wanzhou's situation if it helped national security or if he thought that it was necessary to close a broader trade deal. His comments appear to suggest that the U.S.'s detention of Meng was a political decision, something that many Chinese have suspected, but that his administration had previously denied. This came after Canada confirmed that one of its former diplomats, Michael Kovrig, had been detained by Chinese authorities. The foreign ministry said the organization Kovrig works for here, International Crisis Group, is not registered in China according to NGO law. The ministry added that Chinese law is clear about the visas people must apply for to enter or work in China. Kovrig's detention is being seen here as a response to Meng's situation. She's been released on bail, but is being closely monitored. Today, she posted on her WeChat, "I'm in Vancouver and have already returned to my family. I'm proud of Huawei, proud of my motherland. Thank you to everyone who has cared about me." The foreign ministry described her detention as a mistake from the start and demanded for her release immediately. Some executives in the international business community say that this is just a reminder of how vulnerable they are here. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Eunice Yoon in Beijing.
And China has made its first major purchase of U.S. soybeans since President Trump and President Xi met at the G20 summit in Argentina 2 weeks ago. Reuters reports that Chinese state-owned companies bought at least $180 million worth of the crop. As you may know, China is the largest buyer of U.S. soy. Last year, it imported about 60% of all U.S. overseas shipments, valued at $12 billion.
An extraordinary 3 days in London that threw into question the economic future of the United Kingdom and had global investors on edge. Late today, British Prime Minister Theresa May survived a threat to her leadership. A party vote left her in power, but questions remain around her plan to exit the European Union. Wilfred Frost is in London tonight for us. So, Wilf, what's the timeline? What happens next, especially as it pertains to Brexit?
Well, more uncertainty as it pertains to Brexit is the answer, Sue. One of the big questions we had coming into this vote of confidence for the Prime Minister was that if she won, what would those that had tried and failed to oust her do next? Would they fall in line and go along with her Brexit plan, or would they continue to try to oppose it? And it's clear from comments we've had in the last hour that it is the latter they wish to do, to continue to oppose her plan for Brexit. And when you consider the maths overall, it looks difficult for Theresa May's Brexit plan. Tonight, she got 200 votes from her 317 MPs in her party, but there are 650 seats in total in Parliament, so she seems a long way from getting her sort of middle ground plan for Brexit through Parliament. The British pound rose today because she won that leadership vote,
right,
but is down still week to date, month to date and year to date because of Brexit uncertainty.
And investors are watching closely. Companies involved in this are watching closely. The odds of either a soft Brexit, which is what Theresa May is pushing, which still has economic ties to the European Union, or a no-deal Brexit where there would be no ties at all. What would happen to businesses that are in the UK, U.S. businesses in the UK, if we get a no-deal Brexit, do you think?
Yes, Bill, that is certainly the worst-case scenario for equity markets and economies tied to the United Kingdom, a Brexit with no plan for how we transition. I think U.S. companies with the biggest exposure tend to be those large investment banks like Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. They say they are more prepared for that eventuality than perhaps they would have been a year or two ago. But the uncertainty it would cause to European economies certainly could weigh on global and U.S. growth next year if that did happen.
Indeed. Wilfred Frost. Wilf, thank you so much for joining us from London this evening.
Otherwise, overseas events like Brexit and trade could affect the global economy, which is why investors are watching developments so closely. And in fact, today, the chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors said that there are signs that the global economy is slowing.
The European economy is clearly slowing. I think the European economy is slowing because capital spending's on hold as people wait to see what happens with Brexit. There's a lot of financial distress in Italy. And of course, Europe exports a lot to China, which itself, I think, is suffering a severe slowdown right now. And so the global economy outlook, the global economic outlook is a little bit lower than we had last year. But for the U.S., we're really humming along.
Mr. Hassett went on to say that he believes that the U.S. economy will grow by 3% or more next year. He credited an increase in business investment and the White House's trade strategy.
Inflation remains muted thanks to a decline in energy prices. The latest report on consumer prices was flat, even as unemployment sits near a 50-year low, which, in theory, puts upward pressure on prices. For the year, the inflation index is up more than 2%, and that's just about where the Federal Reserve wants it. The central bank meets on interest rate policy next week.
In Washington, the House easily passed the $860 billion farm bill following the Senate's approval last night. The legislation now goes on to the president for his signature. The bill expanded farm subsidies and funded national food stamp programs, which we knew about. But a little-known provision also handed a big win to part of the cannabis industry by legalizing hemp production. Aditi Roy is in San Francisco for us tonight.
Kaylee Nickel co-founded Sagely Naturals in 2015. The company makes beauty and wellness products, including topicals and dietary supplements, which contain cannabidiol, or CBD. Products are marketed to treat pain and ease anxiety.
Currently, we have two collections. We have our Relief and Recovery collection as well as Tranquility.
CBD is an active ingredient in hemp, which is a close cousin of the marijuana plant. But unlike THC, the active ingredient in weed, CBD can't make you high. CBD is federally illegal, according to the Drug Enforcement Agency. The 2014 Farm Bill legalized hemp farming for research, and while it didn't legalize it across the board, the relaxing of laws around the compound sparked CBD-based companies to sprout. The current Farm Bill would close some of those loopholes, paving the way for CBD-based products to land on store shelves near you. If hemp is legalized, one research group estimates the market could reach $22 billion by 2022. Sources say mass retailers looking into carrying the products once they're legalized include Walmart, Target, Costco, and Kroger, as well as pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens and department stores like Nordstrom, Saks, Bloomingdale's, and Macy's.
Those are generally the categories that the consumer packaged goods industry defines, and I think we all know the names for each of them. You can assume that we're in the process of talking to all of them, if not right now, shortly.
Executives at some of the biggest CBD companies, including CV Sciences and Charlotte's Web, or CW Hemp, say they've been talking to big retailers in anticipation of hemp legalization. They add this year's Farm Bill could be a game-changing moment for the industry and national retailers.
We believe that this will be the catalyst, or maybe the tipping point, for certainly one or two to enter the space. And I believe that once one or two enter the space, you're going to see at some point all enter the space and participate in what is going to be a very, very big product category.
Farmers could also benefit. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell spearheaded hemp legalization. He says in his home state of Kentucky, farmers grew in excess of 3,200 acres of hemp in 2017. This year, the number of acres more than doubled. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Aditi Roy, San Francisco.
It is time to take a look at some of today's upgrades and downgrades. Morgan Stanley and Bank of America were downgraded to market perform from outperform at Keefe, Bruyette & Woods. The analyst cites a lack of catalyst to push those stocks higher. The price target on Morgan Stanley is $45 and $29 for Bank of America. Morgan Stanley rose a fraction to $40.81. Bank of America fell to $24.52. Verizon was downgraded to equal weight from overweight at Morgan Stanley. The analyst there says any good news is already priced into the stock. The price target is $58. The stock fell more than 2.5% to $57.25.
Morgan Stanley also downgraded eBay to equal weight from overweight. The analyst cited concerns over the e-commerce website's U.S. business. Price target $33. Stock's already below that, slightly down today to $29.04. And Lululemon was upgraded to buy from neutral at Citi. The analyst cited improving fundamentals and the company's growth prospects. That price target now $152. Shares rose about 5% today to $122.65.
Still ahead, is the rocky stock market holding back spending this holiday season? The New York Times is reporting that Chinese hackers were behind the massive cyber attack on Marriott. The hackers are suspected of working on behalf of a Chinese intelligence gathering effort. Information including emails, names, and passport numbers were stolen as part of a slow-moving attack that is believed to have lasted 4 years. As we've reported, the breach affected 500 million Marriott guests.
Well, it is certainly no secret that cyber thieves are becoming more sophisticated. Some, in fact, are now using cryptocurrency mining software, which is often associated with Bitcoin. But instead of creating alternative currencies, the software may be concealing an attack on corporate networks. Andrea Day has our special report.
We're seeing this in real time, what someone could be stealing with this miner.
He's showing us a new attack that could leave your sensitive files wide open. But so stealth, even security pros might not notice.
They're going to assume very likely that it's a miner and nothing else.
Troy Kent is a threat researcher for Awake Security. We tracked him down at a cybersecurity conference where he demoed the attack he just created and says it only took a few hours to pull off.
If I can do it, then absolutely an attacker could do it, whether they're very sophisticated or not sophisticated at all.
Here's how it works. Kent says attackers install software on your network, usually by tricking someone inside the company to click on a link. It's called phishing. And once the software is in place,
they can come in and they can steal files, they can steal intellectual property, they can steal credentials and then log in as maybe the CEO. Or they can download more software, they can bring down services.
You might think security would just sound the alarm, take down the software, and stop the attack. But here's the scary part. According to Kent, this attack uses crypto mining software, which most security ops are used to seeing on the network and might just ignore.
So could security at a business totally miss this attack?
Depending on the type of detection that they're using, it's very possible that they would miss this attack, or at least deprioritize it or dismiss it as only a minor.
And he says most business networks have loads of alerts.
There are too many alerts to respond to, and so alerts like these for crypto mining would be deprioritized compared to others.
And he says that's why he wanted to show how this could work. His advice? Start using more advanced detection systems, not just the basic systems that a lot of companies rely on right now. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Andrea Day.
Tencent music shares open on a high note, and that's where we begin tonight's market focus. The music arm of the Chinese tech company Tencent raised about $1 billion after pricing its shares at $13 each. The highly anticipated initial public offering is one of the largest U.S. IPOs by a Chinese company since Alibaba. The shares rose more than 7.5% to $14 even. Under Armour says it cut its financial targets, including in the U.S., where the company has been struggling to regain lost momentum. The sports apparel retailer narrowed its earnings outlook for the year, and it also said it plans to shift some production away from China amid the ongoing trade tensions. Shares fell 10% to $19.81.
Lowe's plans to buy back $10 billion worth of its stock. The new buyback plan adds to the existing $4.5 billion program already in place. The home improvement retailer also reaffirmed its 2018 earnings and sales guidance during today's Investor Day. Shares rose about 3% on that news to $92.11 today. And in a new filing, PG&E has revealed that one of its power lines was damaged just before the beginning of the massive campfire that happened in Northern California last month. Investigators have yet to determine whether PG&E equipment did cause that deadliest blaze in the state's history. The stock rose about 1% today, by the way, to $26.39.
Amazon executives and a New York City official were questioned today by city council members over the billions of dollars in incentives that Amazon received as part of its decision to bring its second headquarters to Queens, New York. And while some small businesses in the area are welcoming the retailing behemoth, others are concerned. Kate Rogers reports from Long Island City, New York.
Ronnie Mazumdar opened his restaurant Adda Indian Canteen in Long Island City, Queens, some 3 months ago. Shortly after, Amazon announced it was splitting its second headquarters between two cities, Long Island City, New York, and Crystal City, Virginia. With a recently signed 10-year lease, Mazumdar is hopeful he'll be able to lure in new customers from Amazon's employee base, walking distance from his store.
I think we all find this very intimidating, that there's this big box, kind of a retailer giant that's coming in. And I think the way to look at these things is not through fear, through that lens, but to look at it as a sense of building a more thriving community.
The Queens Economic Development Corporation is welcoming Amazon with open arms, but acknowledges the decision comes with challenges for housing and transportation.
I think it'll be a boon for the borough. I think we have to be very, work carefully with Amazon because we do have infrastructure issues, housing issues.
This waterfront area is a proposed location for HQ2, but of course, not everyone is thrilled that Amazon is coming to town. The New York City Council held the first of several meetings today on Amazon, while lawmakers and residents rallied against the company's choice. Meanwhile, some local entrepreneurs are frustrated too. Lexi Beach opened her Astoria bookshop 5 years ago and just signed another 5-year lease 2 miles from the proposed Amazon site. She's concerned about rents going up in the city for both businesses and residents, and says the community here is supportive of small business, an environment that she says seems unsustainable with a corporation moving in.
To have it be quite so close feels a little bit like a kick in the teeth from a state and a city that purport to support small business.
In a statement, Amazon told CNBC it's looking forward to working with local businesses, and in addition to creating tens of thousands of jobs, both directly and indirectly, the company plans to donate space for a school, a startup hub, and more. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Kate Rogers in Long Island City.
And Amazon, certainly like many retailers, is hoping for a merry holiday shopping season. But after a pretty strong start, there are now signs of a possible economic slowdown. You've got waning consumer confidence, a slide in the stock market. So with roughly a week and a half left to shop, hint, hint, how are retailers faring right now? Joining us once again with a channel check, Charles O'Shea. He's lead retail analyst at Moody's. Welcome back.
Hi, Bill.
You were with us, I think it was around Black Friday or Cyber Monday. And, you know, a lot of optimism at that time, but a lot has changed since then, economically and psychologically. Right. Even the Fed said that optimism has been waning. How are the retailers doing, do you think?
I think they're still doing just fine. I think this holiday, if you're a retailer and you can't sell product, you may rethink what you want to do in the future. Everything is set up well for the retailers right now. Yeah, there have been some soft signs over the last several days, but I still think that this is a perfect setup for retail. We've got good weather in the Northeast. Coats should be flying off the shelves, boots, that sort of thing. And the consumer still feels pretty good. What we focus more on is the mid-level consumer and then maybe down a little bit, because those are the consumers for which and for whom Christmas is really important. And they always find a way to pull it off. Even during the recession, we had a good holiday season, you know, compared to what we thought we were going to get.
You know, the only thing that I've noticed, because I have been, you'd be shocked, shopping early, which I never get a chance to do, but I've been doing it, and there's a lot of discounting. What toll is that going to take on the bottom line? I mean, some of them are discounting very dramatically. I don't know whether that's desperation or not, but even like a Macy's and a Kohl's, and there's a lot of that going on.
That's where the rubber meets the road. Anybody can sell a product. I mean, I can sell you $1 for 99 cents all day long. You'll probably buy it. The question becomes, can you make money? And there are a lot of retailers out there that are desperate right now. They're trying to grow the top line. They're trying to demonstrate that they're viable and that their concepts are resonating. But we don't know what the cost is going to be. And that's why at our shop, you know, we're operating income focused. So we're going to be late to making calls on how well the holiday went, because we have to see how much you put in the bank, not how much goes out the door.
So who are the winners? Still the same people you were talking about last time?
Yeah, it's hard to see how a Walmart and Amazon, a Target, a Best Buy, even some of the department stores, a Kohl's, how they don't do well this holiday. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got our quote-unquote distress list, and down there is J.Crew and Neiman. Sears is not there anymore. And it's hard to see how they're going to excel this holiday. It's become such a barbell in retail, and the big guys just keep getting bigger and better at it.
Well, we apologize for interrupting your mall channel checks, but we'll let you get back to that.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks, Sue.
Charlie O'Shea with Moody's. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, by the way, Made in America showrooms that you live in.
Have you ever stayed in a hotel or a long-term rental that had decor or furniture that you wanted to buy for your own home? Well, one short-term housing company is making it possible for customers to do just that, while also helping local small businesses. Diana Olick is in Boston tonight.
From the outside, it looks like a regular rental apartment building overlooking the Boston skyline. But inside...
So everything we see here has been pieced together, made in America.
It is a marketplace of American-made products.
This is one of the only vacuums made in America.
South Carolina, to be exact. Go Local Suites, an extended stay brand where tenants can rent a suite for a night or a year, is the brainchild of Patrick Flynn. He started Northeast Suites in 2012, but as the competition for temporary housing heated up, he needed an edge.
In our rental settings and our Go Local Suites, people have an opportunity to demo, review, and purchase items during the course of their stay, and we have more of a captive audience.
Each item comes with a scanner code. If you like it, buy it. A coffee maker made in Pennsylvania, a toaster from Milwaukee, silverware made in New York.
Over the past few months, we've proven the concept to sell a little over $10,000 in sales, ranging from items as low as $5 a piece up to hundreds of dollars a piece.
As with any new business, timing is everything, and Flynn admits he's capitalizing on the Trump administration's focus on American-made. But while branding experts say most Americans do feel good about buying American-made products, they warn businesses must focus on the products, not the politics.
We always advise them to stay out of the political arena and not to pay attention to what the political climate might be and what those discussions might be. Focus solely on who your customer base is and your target audience.
And so far, Flynn is doing that. He's even launched a Go Local magazine, highlighting American products that may not be in each unit, because the units differ by price.
So luxury American-made and basic American-made.
Yeah, that's right. We cover all the different price points.
Because that's just basic business, no matter where you are. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Diana Olick in Boston.
And to read more about how rental suites are doubling as showrooms, you can head to our website, nbr.com.
Before we go, a final look at the day on Wall Street. The Dow had been up 450 points, closed up 150 points today. The Nasdaq climbed by 66. The S&P 500 added 14. By the way, we get Costco earnings tomorrow. That should be instructive. That'll give us an update on how things are doing in shopping.
Yep, right before the Christmas holidays. Yep. Okay, that'll do it for us tonight. I'm Sue Herrera. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Bill Griffith. Have a great evening. Shop well. See you tomorrow.